everybody. Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Coming in here with you with Mr. Gary Rabine coming in as a guest for us this evening. Gary's got a big event going on next week that he wanted to talk to you guys about. As you're aware, we've been talking a lot lately about voter turnout and how to get more people involved in the electoral process, because the Democrats continue, at least in Illinois, to be successful, not because they have a better platform or their ideas are better. They just, we need more participation. So, I'm going to let Gary talk about an event he's got coming up. It looks like it's got a lot of good people coming there. So, Gary, go ahead.
Yeah. So, our goal is actually some of that too, Tom, right? We want to get the vote out. We want to, we've got people there that are doing a great job with, focus on cleaning up the voter rolls. We've got some of these leaders that are speaking have got some really good get out the vote campaigns in the swing states and specifically swing counties. So we're here to listen to them. And many of these are Trump advisors directly to Trump, and we're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We think we'll get, we're not sure, anywhere from 8,000 to 15,000 people we think will be out there. So it's going to be a great event.
Good. Yeah. I was asked, several people asked me, and that's coming up, next week. And I was really wanting to come, but my son and I are going to be in Canada on our annual hunting trip. So we're going to make it. But I think it's important for people to hear, I know who most of the people are you have speaking there. I don't follow all of them, but I've always been particularly interested in what Charlie does. And I know you have a relationship with him, but I think one of the things that I see, and maybe some of the others, but I see Charlie really focusing on is how do we increase the voter turnout for Republicans? Because, it's my belief that when Trump lost in 2020, it was in part because already at that time, the Democrats had come to learn that they could use this vote by mail mechanism to really get a lot of votes from people that otherwise were never going to turn out. And so it's been 4 years since that's happened, and I think a lot's changed since then. But I think the people of Illinois can learn a lot from all of these people that are going to be there speaking, because ultimately I'm convinced, and again, been talking about it for some time, that if Illinoisans ever want Illinois to be red, which it can do mathematically, there's a lot of these things that they're going to be talking about that we're going to have to employ going forward in the next cycle or two, if we ever want to have success, especially on the statewide elections. I mean, you were a candidate for governor, so you know what statewide candidacy looks like. And really it all has to do with voter turnout. And there's a lot of disenfranchised Republicans in Illinois thinking that it's futile to even try to compete. And that's not true. That self-defeating mentality, at least from my perspective, is inaccurate. They talk about how Chicago, we just can't beat Chicago. And I point out to them that in 1978, there were more people in Chicago as a percentage of Illinois than there is today. So it's really mathematically not true. So what do you think, Gary?
Yeah, you know what? I saw something. Tom Fitton, Tom Fitton, he's got, what's the name of his organization? He's got a national organization where he goes and fights all different causes for all different reasons to keep America, this great American dream alive. Tom Fitton does a lot of cool things, but bottom line is he's fighting the voter rolls, and he's suing some states, Illinois being one of those states. And we know we've got a bunch of warriors here in Illinois that are fighting that with him, but he's not only fighting the state. The unions have now brought their lawyers into the mix to sue him or battle him on this. And you wonder why would we want voter rolls cleaned up? Why would we want people that have been dead for decades, their ballots out there, and people actually taking their ballots and voting with them, right? I mean, this is craziness that we actually do have a state where dead people actually have a say so. This is craziness.
Yeah, but I mean, cleaning the voter rolls is certainly important, because there's a lot of advantages that come to that. And I'm familiar with the lawsuit you're talking about. Back when it became mandatory that cleaning voter rolls was required, Illinois legislature really didn't do a whole lot. There's a rule out there. There's really no law that was passed that mandates it specifically. It's very wishy-washy. It's very, weak, for a lack of better words. And so it doesn't happen a lot. There's a lot of You talk to the county clerks, they'll tell you, the clerk and recorders, that they're doing these types of things, but I don't think it's done real well. And again, I think it's a piece of the puzzle, cleaning the voter rolls, absolutely a piece. One of the things, again, and I'm hoping that maybe Charlie or some of the other folks will talk about there, Gary, is I point out to people, and again, you having run in a midterm, you're familiar. In 2020, when we had a presidential election, we had about 2.4 million people vote Republican in that 2020 election cycle, 2.4 million. In 2022, when we had our midterm election, we had 1.7 million people vote Republican. So there's 700,000 votes that didn't get cast in the midterm election as a Republican than we had in 2020. And if those same people would have voted and we'd have had 2.4 million turnout in 22, Governor Pritzker would have lost because he only got 2.35 million. So getting that voter turnout, again, ultimately is what we have to accomplish. Voter roll cleaning obviously being a big piece of that, but figuring out what we can do. I mean, I have a lot of people, I don't know what your thoughts are, Gary, on the vote by mail. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan. I'm one of those that thinks we all ought to be patriotic and vote on election day. But for everyone that's like me, there's probably one that's not like me. And so we have to, it's the law right now. We have to accept it for what it is in Illinois and use it the best we can. But man, I get a lot of pushback from people in Illinois, being very, philosophical in their disdain for it, which again, I get, but they just think, well, we ought to just change it back to voting on election day when we're in the super minority in Illinois. We can't change anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, so Tom Fitton is Judicial Watch, and you're not talking like, dozens of votes or hundreds of votes. You're talking thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of votes that are definitely that aren't legitimate anymore. So I mean, there's a reason that I can't figure out. I mean, we kind of assume, right, that our politicians, the state of Illinois, and these unions are fighting it, and it can't be a good reason, because why would you not want voter rolls cleaned up? So there's some, definitely there's some cheating there, in my opinion, in the state of Illinois, as well as a few other countries that Judicial Watch is going after. But when we look at the speakers we have this coming Sunday, right? They're all people that really understand the American dream will be lost if Kamala and this goofy Waltz guy actually become our president, vice president. I mean, these people both believe in communism. They both believe that Marxism is the way to the future of our country, which is really communism, right? And how could they be running? It's amazing that in a great country like ours, we've got two people that never built anything. They've never really had a real job, and you got a guy that's he's example of stolen valor, right? And he's saying that he basically fought and whatever. I mean, the guy's a bad guy. If you look at the state, the results of the state, it's much like our governor J.B. Taxker. Right. I mean, this guy, he just, he's taxing the heck out of our wealth in our state, out of our small businesses, and they're all leaving. Right. On top of that, he's not protecting the citizens of the state. And this guy, Walsh, is, one and the same, just without the deep pockets. But I mean, look at what happened in Minneapolis. A world-class city turns into a city that looks like it's from a third world country. This is the leadership that the Democratic Party's put up. And then, Kamala, the commie. I mean, I believe it's Trump and the American dream. What I like to say is the American dream trumps communism. So think of Kamala, communism, right? I mean, it sounds a little like communism, but they actually believe that communism is the way, and it's a scary thing when we have people like this in the leading our Democratic Party. So it's a scary time, and the people that are speaking at this event, Charlie is one that's been awesome when it comes to growing this voice in college campuses across America that push back on this Marxist mentality, and these kids that represent Turning Point, represent free markets. They really represent the American dream. And we've got General Flynn, right? General Flynn. What an amazing warrior and a hero! If everybody knew his story, an amazing hero. And the Obama administration and many others have tried to ruin him, right? When you look at We've got Steve Moore, one of the best economists in our country's history. Here's a guy that worked under Art Laffer in the Reagan administration. He worked for Margaret Thatcher, and when Art Laffer turned around Great Britain with Margaret Thatcher. Steve Moore has worked with many governors across our country to really change the economics of their states in a good way. So when you think about all these people we've got, these are people that are really concerned with us losing this great American dream that we've been blessed with. So, I mean, and it's so fun to think that these people are coming our way in Illinois, Northern Illinois, to talk about why Trump or we lose the American dream.
Good. And when you're speaking about Harris and this Waltz guy, the thing that's got me concerned, and I'm not one of them that gets, really concerned or worked up about Democrats a lot. I mean, I don't agree with them much on anything, but the policy difference, when I'm comparing the electorate, like what I consider the Democratic electorate, and not the nutbags in the Democratic Party, but the normal people, they have their segment of Democrats that probably are middle of the road, and then you've got our party, et cetera. But I'm thinking about the Democrats for a second. And what really has me concerned now is that it's not the electorate, it's not the Democratic electorate that's controlling their party. It's not, because what we just saw happen was completely contrived, and it was a very crafted plan to get Joe out of the way and then to install Kamala Harris and then this guy Waltz. I mean, who most of the Democrats probably never heard of before they put him in there. And what the reality is to me, Gary, that concerns me is there is no way in hell that Kamala Harris would have ever made it through the primary through the Democratic electorate. There's absolutely no way. And I believe that the Democratic political elites knew that, and they wanted her bad because she's so far left that she fits that fringe Democratic ideal that, again, I don't believe everyday Democrats probably follow. And they got her in there. And now, again, the Democrats are in a spot to where they're going to vote for her because they're not going to vote for a Republican. And they're going to have the candidate they want. And again, that scares the crap out of me because they completely wiped out the process of allowing the Democrat electorate to pick a normal person. Somebody, again, I wouldn't have voted for him, but a Shapiro or somebody like that out of Pennsylvania. Okay. But they've got this nutbag Harris that, again, is completely crazy, liberal, far left, progressive, and that's who we're facing. So I agree with you when you say, I don't know what the hell's going to happen if this lady gets elected. I mean, it's really going to be scary, and we'll just have to hope that the Congress is able to hold her back. But can you imagine the executive orders that nutbag would be issuing if she got elected president?
So just think about America looking like Illinois, and that we've got a guy running the state, as we know, that's a Marxist. He's not a guy that loves this country. He's a spoiled trust fund baby that feels control that he feels power that he never had before, and he loves it, right? Here's a guy who's going to buy his way into the VP spot too. Rumors were $400 or $500 million that he was going to contribute to this campaign if they put his big butt in the seat, right? So either way, bottom line is this is not about running against Biden before, and I actually said this many times for the last year. I've been saying it's not going to be Biden. I mean, why we shouldn't be talking about Biden? We should be talking about the regime that will put the next puppet in place, and that's exactly what happened. If we're talking about the regime, this regime is one that believes in open borders, right? This regime believes in that kids should have their own choice. Fourth, fifth, sixth grade kids should have their own choice to change their sex if they want to, right? This regime believes in the police are bad and criminals need to be treated better. This regime believes in that we should be financing this Green New Deal to be we're already the cleanest burning energy burning country in the world, of the biggest countries in the world, the 30 biggest, we're the cleanest, and we've been for the last 10 years. Okay, and yet we're gonna try to clean our act up more for $10 trillion over the next, 6-7 years, while the rest of the world continues to get dirtier, while they eat our lunch at oil that's 70, 80, 90 bucks a barrel, and Russia and our enemies, Russia, China, and our enemies get richer and wealthier. Iran gets wealthier, while we don't sell and we don't use our natural resources, right? These people are Marxist, communist, and it's a regime. It's not Kamala. It wouldn't have been, if it was Pritzker in the seat or whoever it was. It's the regime behind them that they're puppet masters. It's Obama, it's Soros, it's this crazy Klaus Schwab and his right-hand guy now that's talking over there about if Trump wins, it's the death of the globalist plan, right? So again, we've got a lot of issues, but it's not about, Kamala she's a bad character, but she's a puppet for the worst characters. It's the regime that wants America to be part of this global communist world that they envision.
That's exactly right, Gary. And that's one of the reasons that and again, you know these things probably even better than I. When President Trump got into this in 2016, when you're talking about the Democrat elites, ideally, we also have the Republicans as well that are.
Well, sure we do. Yeah.
We know that. And when President Trump jumped into it, they couldn't control him, and that's why they didn't ever like him, right? And they didn't want to support him at first, but he worked his way through that. But you're absolutely right. Kamala Harris and Walz are not going to be the leaders of this nation if she gets elected. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. These people that you mentioned behind her that installed her as the candidate, they're going to be the ones running the show. And whether you're Democrat or Republican, I'll scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, it's a scary time, and we just have to get Trump elected, and every one of us that understand the importance of this need to stand up, whether it's investing their time, your talent, or your treasure in this race. Boy, we better be doing it, because we don't want to look back. I mean, we all hear stories in history in the times of communist Germany taking over, right, and the Nazis taking over, or even as late as Venezuela, right. And this Maduro guy right now that just stole an election again, right? I mean, Venezuela only 22 years ago is the second richest country in the world per capita, right? The first richest in South America. Today, they're a third world country where the elitists, that the communist leaders are billionaires, multi-billionaires, and getting richer every day on the backs of every other citizen in that country. So, I mean, this is what happens when you allow these crazy people, these regimes to take over, and if every time you hear these stories, you'll hear people that were wealthy, that were smart business people that stood by and watched quietly because they didn't want to be the people pulled into the camps, right? They didn't want to be the ones that got smacked upside the head or canceled, right? But boy, because good people didn't stand up, those countries fell by the wayside. We, as good people that love this country, that love the American dream, if we don't stand up now, we'll be looking back and 10 years from now and say, boy, you know what, we could have probably done more. How did this country become a communist country? Because it'll be because good people stood by and didn't do anything, right? They're afraid of the cancel culture. And as I'm doing this American Dream rally, right, this Trump Now and Save the American Dream rally, as I'm doing this, I'm reaching out to my friends. I'm blessed to have many friends across the country and here in Chicagoland area, southern Wisconsin. I'm reaching out to many friends that are CEOs and millionaires and billionaires, and they're a lot of nice people, but a lot of weak people that say, "Boy, Gary, I appreciate what you're doing. Thanks for what you're doing. I really appreciate it, but I can't help sponsor that because I'll be seen by customers, employees, and such." As a conservative and boy, I got too many people that I do business with or my employees that are far left or they're left to center, and I don't want to trigger them, right? I don't want the cancel culture. Well, guess what? That can't be how we think right now. I mean, we got to stop thinking like that and say we have to save this country, and it's going to cost us some here and there, right? We're going to lose a couple of customers, we're going to lose a couple of employees. Some of us might lose a job here or there, even, right? But boy, you know what? It's a far cry from what we're going to see when we lose our country.
I agree. It's I'm 55, and then you might be around my age, a little older maybe, but can you just think back into the 70s and 80s when we were younger and how we just in our lifetime have seen the way that things have changed and progressed. It's really, it's phenomenal. And even my children's mother, she's from Ukraine originally, and she moved here about 25 years ago. And even now she'll talk about what she's seen just in her time frame of being here, how we're progressing to becoming more like what she moved away from when she moved here from the former Soviet bloc. I mean, and her mother actually now, my children's grandmother, and even she talks about it. And she says, Tom, what we're seeing and how we're seeing this country move, it's starting to become what we left and what we lived during the 80s and 90s in the former Soviet bloc. And it's really quite scary when they talk like that, but they have an optics that you and I don't have.
I would ask everyone out there to reach out to somebody they know that's come from a foreign country that's immigrated to this great country, and so many of these people are educated on this type of movement, this Marxist movement, and they'll tell the stories of their own countries and countries that were their neighbors, right? And I got to tell you, I've got a young woman. She's probably 35 years old, and she's now the CTO of a technology company that I own. That we started. This young woman, my son hired her as an administrative role, and knew she had some really good tech skills. And she showed that she had a lot more than just a few tech skills. This woman understood artificial intelligence and machine learning, but she came from Venezuela. This young woman, her and her husband fled Venezuela when they were in their mid-20s, and came here looking for the American dream. And two really smart, educated people came from wealthy families. Their families were in the streets, scrapping in garbage cans by the time they fled. Mother, father, grandparents, brothers, sisters went from farming and wealthy farming family to a family in the streets scrapping for their meals. And anyway, so this woman is now the CTO of our company and doing amazing things. And she can't stop talking about what she's seeing. She can't believe that America is considering the things they're considering when it comes to the transgender movement here, and women, competing in sports, and men's, men competing in women's sports as transgenders, like the Olympic boxer that won the Olympics is so sickening. But this is something that Americans now are embracing on the left and the center and some on the right. I mean, this thing where we think it's okay to have open borders, right? These smart people that have immigrated here, like Alex, our CTO, boy, she knows it's a bad thing. She knows it's a terrible thing. So again, I would ask anybody out there, talk to some immigrants that have immigrated in the last 20, 30 years from anywhere in the world. There's no other place like this. It's called the American dream for a reason. There's no other American dream. There's nothing. There's no, China dream. There's no Venezuelan dream anymore, right? The American dream is something that's only a few of us can participate in, but it will be lost if we don't fight hard. And
you're right, Aaron. And you just said the China dream. It made me think the new company that I just started. We had to buy some equipment, and you can only buy the equipment in China. They don't make it in the United States, and so we bought it. It was sent here, and they had to send over an engineer to teach us how to set it up and to operate it, etc. And this young man has an engineering degree. He's very well educated and very intelligent, you could tell. And he was telling us about the lifestyle of where he lives, even with his education. And he lives at a poverty level far below what people would recognize and generally believe is poverty in our country. Your poverty in our country, you still got iPhones and you still have a place to live, many people, etc. And this young man was living, I don't even know if they had running water in the house that he lives in, to be honest with you, from the best I could tell. He didn't speak English very well, and we interpreted through a translator, and I didn't want to get too personal with him. But you could tell that, again, I don't even think they had running water. And so you could appreciate when he was here, staying in our area. And again, I live in Southern Illinois. I don't live in a highly, developed area. It's farm area for the most part. He couldn't believe the standard of living here as compared to where he was from. It was really eye-opening for him. And when you just said the China dream, it made me think about people like that.
Absolutely, and again, it doesn't take long. Only 22 years ago, Venezuela was as advanced as we were. It was as clean and beautiful a country and safe a country as we had about the same time. Now we've become less safe. Our cities have become vandalized and in terrible shape in many cases, like Minneapolis and Chicago and Detroit and many others. But this is something that will continue to happen until we fight back, until we hold people accountable. And Trump is a leader that will hold people accountable. His culture will spread across states across America. The Republican governors and even some Democrat governors like the guy in Colorado, right? Polis. I mean, he's a guy that actually fiscally is very responsible, doing a good job. Socially, he doesn't match my social beliefs, but you know what? Fiscally, he actually is doing a good job. But a Trump White House, I believe, will inspire states across America to lower regulation, because it's all about competing with the rest of the world. It'll inspire all states across the country to think about safety, think about education, think about education freedom, right? All these things that will happen culturally if we have a president that stands up for the American dream. And I know I keep saying it, but again, the American dream all day long trumps communism, right? And the American dream all day long trumps communism. Okay, commas America, right?
I love it. Anything else, sir?
No, just to go over a few things. We got Roger Stone coming. I've got Corey Brooks, a good friend of mine on the South Side. What a great guy he is.
He's a good guy. So Gary Franchi, I see. Gary's a good guy too.
Yeah, Gary Franchi coming. He's awesome. We've got Moms for America leader Kimberly, and she's something else. She's got a great group of hundreds of thousands of women across the country.
Yeah, I know Kimberly. Who's Miss Justice? I don't know if I know her. Who's her?
So Tiffany Justice is Moms for Liberty. So
okay. Yeah, I know the group, but I've never followed them real quick. I know.
Yeah, I think they're big. They're about this. They're very similar in size and everything, and they're doing a great job, just like Moms for America. So and then we got a lot of good, Jaco Boyens. Jaco Boyens. Have you ever listened to Jaco Boyens talk?
I have not, sir.
Okay, I'll tell you, he's amazing. So he's been an advisor on the battle against human trafficking globally, and he was a Trump advisor also. But boy, he's a very passionate speaker, and he understands the flow of human trafficking like nobody else I've ever seen in the world. So we love to get him out there. He can tell you all about Illinois. He can tell you about any state in the country and how the flow of human trafficking is affecting the lives of so many. And most importantly, our young kids across this country that are from America, as well as those that are being trafficked into America. So
I've read some, and I admit I was ignorant about that for pretty much a long time, and started doing some reading and reviewing articles and reading people's reports like you're talking about human trafficking, because most people like us, we don't even think about the fact that still happens in 2024, but it's quite prevalent, Gary, and it's really scary when you start reading on how much that's happening, and again, even in our own state, how prevalent it is. It really was eye-opening for me.
It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's these thugs in Mexico and America that are taking advantage of it. I learned a lot about it as I ran for governor, and Illinois is one of the biggest hubs in the country. This is a huge hub in the world. Actually, it's a terrible thing, and our governor does nothing but help it. The Safety Act just helped it. Eliminating ICE in our state just helped that cause so that trafficking could be more efficient in our state. Right. This is a sick leadership group that we have that, we better continue to fight or we're going to lose our country. The one last person I see on this is Lindsay. Yes. Lindsay's Patriot Barbie, and she's outspoken. She's on top of a lot of cool things, and she speaks across the country as well. So we've got a lot of fun. Really, the cool thing we got also is Thompson Square. So Thompson Square is a great band, a great national band that they happen to be in town, so they called us and said, "Hey, we're huge Trump supporters, and we'd love to be there." So sure enough, they're coming, and they're going to play probably an hour or so, hour and a half of their tunes, and they've got a couple of top like number one, number two hits in over the last 5 years. They've got probably 7 or 8 top 10s, and they're a great group. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So you're having this at the McHenry County Fairgrounds. Is that right?
Yeah, McHenry County Fairgrounds. You can go to paradingfortrump.com. You can just show up there. There should be tickets available for sure. There should be general admission. I'm not sure that the there's VIP tickets that are from $75 to $300, and then the for like $30, get one free. So it's really like $15. You can get the general admission right now still. But there should be general admission tickets left even the day of on next Sunday. But there may not be the VIP tickets, and there's still a good amount left, but those are selling pretty fast. The $75 to $300 tickets. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And you're having it the day before the Democratic convention, right?
That's the perfect time. That's what we wanted. One day before the Democratic convention. Perfect time.
Did you hear? Speaking of the Democratic convention, what did they do with all of the illegal immigrants that were all surrounding the area where they're having the convention? Did they bus them out to some place? Did you hear about any of that?
Yeah, I did. They just took a page out of San Francisco. They got the same game plan in all these left-wing cities. These left-wing cities that are destroyed by their ignorance. They're shipping them out. There's places all over in the Colorado counties that are taking them in. I know. They clean up all the human feces and all the things that they do to make it look like a normal city that's Chicago of 10 years ago, right?
Right. Okay, sir. We appreciate you coming on and explaining this to you. I hope you have a good event, and we'll be watching, and hopefully it turns out really well. We look forward to seeing some pictures and everything online showing how the big crowd shows up.
It'll be fun. Thanks a lot, Tom. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.